because they have the fidelity to render.
Otherwise, you're Uncanny Valley.
And it just starts to look really strange. A lot of video games sort of struggle with that. They have to sort of lean into
Uncanny Valley.
Yes, that. Yeah, I know the term, George. We have an audience that like to hear things.
I know,
it's about the journey.
I wanted to look of recognition, James. You didn't even nod.
I know.
Just put your hand up and go, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to episode 74 of PULP Kitchen. We did go to an exciting event yesterday. We love to know about films that are coming out and projects that are coming forward. We don't just always review and think about what's happening.
I like covering news. I like looking ahead.
Exactly. And we were lucky to be invited to a Netflix event called See What's Next.
Hashtag See What's Next. 2023.
Looking ahead and to 2024.
Yeah, a little bit to 2024 there. And this was an event in Battersea Power Station, which the new redevelopment, which I've not been to before, but you had.
No, but I knew about it through my job.
And that was a cool building. We went into this very nice.
It's a cool building, not a cool development, but yes.
A cool space.
A cool space.
And we went into this. We were funneled into this sort of entertainment area, which led into a very nice new screening.
Yes.
And we had what we thought we were going to be there for like 30, 40 minutes, and then it was like over 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
A full-on presentation.
Feature length.
And I think it was a mix of media, press, newspaper, PR people, and a bunch of, like, for lack of a better term, influencery types.
Content creators.
We kind of shift in between. We're no establishment.
But we, in the past, have talked about different studios, different slates. We've talked about Disney's slate a few times, Marvel's slate, and I know Marvel's part of Disney, but we thought it'd be interesting just to talk about some of the projects they showed to us. So, James, you very diligently wrote down all the titles, and then they got through a lot. We were in there for 2 and a bit hours, and then they were talking about a project every 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was going through quickly. You had people coming on stage. Daniel Kaluuya came out at one point, which we'll get to. But I mean, a lot of this, I'd say we're not going to dwell on for a long time. But I think we're just going to, me and you are going to highlight stuff we think sounds cool and that we're probably going to be interested in seeing. The first major thing I wrote was just all the documentaries.
Yes.
They opened with documentaries, which I thought was interesting.
Really strong batch.
And I would say that, we'll get on to the subject matter. I think the Netflix documentary suite has had a really strong viral potential. Yes. I feel like a lot of documentaries really hit, and a lot of people have a sense of urgency of, you've got to see the documentary.
The Harry and Meghan documentary, the Tinder Swindler,
Fire Festival,
Tiger King.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Just oh my God, it's stranger than fiction. It's too strange to be true.
Did you watch the Woodstock 99 one?
No, but I heard good things.
That's a great watch. There you go. Really, really interesting.
And all these 3 documentaries that they previewed to us push the nostalgia button. Yes. You've got a series coming on Wham! The pop band. You've got a series about Robbie Williams. Yeah. And
really, there's a lot of amazing concert footage of Nebworth. And then Robbie Williams in his underwear in bed on a laptop watching the footage. Like, that was the highlight. Yeah. That I was at all time.
And it was because when they're showing it on a big screen as well with a big sound system, you and I are of a certain age where Robbie Williams was huge when we were growing up. He was massive. But there are probably listeners right now, especially outside of the UK and Ireland, not familiar or maybe even never heard of Robbie Williams. But I'd say delivered probably 10 solid gold hits in the space of a decade.
Feel? Are you kidding me?
Feel.
Let me entertain you.
Rock DJ. Millennium.
Kids.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
I mean, no British wedding is complete without angels coming on at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
So there was that, which looks great. Yes. Wham, as you said. I wrote all the sports.
Well, hang on. You missed the one documentary.
Well, David Beckham was after that.
Yes.
David Beckham.
No, I would just want to bring
let's just go straight into David Beckham.
No, because I want to bring up that because the David Beckham is the other documentary, which is really interesting. It's directed by Fisher Stevens, who's an actor who's in Succession at the moment. He plays Hugo. He's one of the PR guys.
Oh, yeah.
And they showed us this clip, which was really interesting because it contrasted this 2001 World Cup qualifier, where it was England versus Greece, and Beckham was captain. And again, pushing the nostalgia button, because you and I, when we were growing up, obviously David Beckham was international superstar. Yeah. He is still very famous, of course, but like he was just him posh and
him like graduating onto Real Madrid, such a huge thing.
And that really difficult, tense match. I wasn't familiar. I didn't remember it, but it was very good, tense
It's
footage.
a bit young for us to have like real living memories of having seen it.
But they intercut that with David Beckham in his kitchen at home, and I mean,
Victoria
looking for all intents and purposes, being an obsessive compulsive cleaner.
Yes.
You know, and admitting that he has to have the chairs the right way, trimming candle wicks a certain way.
Yeah.
He offers the Fisher Stevens, the director, of coffee, and Fisher Stevens drinks it, and he puts it down. David Beckham picks it up and puts it in the sink to make sure it's all clean. It's very interesting.
He's like, look at that candle.
Yeah.
With Victoria, she's always saying she's going to go clean, but she doesn't.
And
she's going to get a facial.
And then it cuts to like, talking heads from Gary Neville and Rio Ferdinand talking about it. That looked very interesting. Sorry, but then there are more sports things.
And then there was just, they did a sort of like a force split of the screen, and they basically, loads of people have watched Drive Survive. I, as someone who never cared about Formula One, have been completely addicted. I actually not even finished it. I like sort of sip it like a fine wine because it's such high quality documentary about, and it just is, I feel like it's saved the sport, and it's what that sport needs to provide context that's otherwise lost when you flick on Formula One. And so I had heard rumours that they were going to give that treatment to golf. They are. One of the shows they announced is Full Swing. They also announced a tennis one where they showed some footage of Nick Kyrgios just being a loudmouth. And
what was the title? It was like a great pun title as well. It wasn't Full Swing.
No, not that was golf.
Breaking Point.
Breaking
I think it was Breaking Point.
Something like that. They're doing a Tour de France one, which again I have no connection to, but I'm very willing to let them convince me.
We heard some interesting stuff that the cycling in particular, because the teams around these cyclists are particularly unhinged.
I can imagine all that lycra going around. And then what with the other was tennis, golf. I think it was just for.
Oh, and there's a huge World Cup documentary.
That was it, World Cup.
Covering Qatar and all the different teams. You've got all the different nations bringing their different stories and stuff. And and these trailers are edited so well. I was like, I'm going to have to watch this all again.
Okay, so then we started moving on to. It was all, and what was cool is these were all British made dramas with British talent, British directors, British. It was all like British IP, and it really did feel like that.
And Netflix talks about the kind of like more local regional approach they're doing. I didn't realize that the UK. Outside of the US, Netflix.
UK is the second
largest.
It's interesting. They said something spender. Like that was interesting because their spend just seems to keep going up and up and up. And there have been headlines before about the amount of money Netflix has spent in 1 year, and I think it's interesting that doesn't seem to be slowing down. Home entertainment is going nowhere. One of the things that was interesting is The Gentleman, the Guy Ritchie series, is being made into a TV show.
The Guy Ritchie film has been made.
The Guy Ritchie film has been made into a series, and I thought that was. Interesting to hear Guy Ritchie talk about like we started it with this, but really we wanted to flesh it out, and Theo James is going to be in it.
He wanted it to be a series originally, then it got made into a film. Now it's being turning into a series again. But what I find interesting is that Guy Ritchie is essentially making the content that he made 25 years ago, but for 20 times the budget. If you think about it, it's East End. And Vinnie Jones is back in this one, for example, and it's like that's not a criticism. I'm just saying he's interesting. He's done other stuff, and he did King Arthur and Sherlock Holmes and The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
movies,
and then he's come all the way back to this, and it's like it's the same genre, but 20 times the budget. It's car chases, it's mansions, and
it's this idea of like the ultra wealthy, children of aristocrats have all this established inherited wealth but no cash, so all of them are filling their estates with weed farms and illegal doings, and that's what the drama is. Next up we had one of the guests that came into the auditorium, which was Daniel Kaluuya, to talk about The Kitchen. The Kitchen, from what I saw, it was almost like hard to gather, but it was like a sort of dystopian London future.
And full of brimming with ideas. I mean, Daniel Kaluuya came on and he was clearly wrapped up in the project in his head.
Yeah,
and
really tell it was that.
He was clearly still very much immersed in the project.
Trying to make a grand statement about what it meant and what it represented.
From the visuals alone, it looked really interesting. And his point was that this kind of scale of storytelling, especially with science fiction, is not usually applied to London. It's not all British context. It's usually applied to and also. What's the word I'm looking for? Diverse London, cosmopolitan London. It's usually seen in an American sense. So that was really cool. And then there was Bodies, which was based on a graphic novel and has a premise. This might sound patronising. I don't mean it to be.
I thought it looked cool.
It has a kind of premise that excited like the inner 14-year-old in me. I you know me, what I love about time travel. So when I saw this premise, I was like, oh. And the premise is
it's a real elevator pitch.
It's the story follows a body is discovered, but the body is discovered in 4 different time periods, in like the 1890s, the 1940s, the 2023, and 2053. And you've got all the, and as such, you've got this deep period detail for each one, from the futurism of 2053 back to the Victorian London. It's this same body, this one crime running across four
it's
different.
Like in the same alleyway, but it looks completely different, but it's the same.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, that's really tickling me. I love that kind of idea. And I feel like that looks like it was embracing its graphic novel roots, like quite heartily in a good way. And it's got the actress who was in Unorthodox, who played the main character in that. I can't remember. Hans, I think is his surname. And then Stephen Graham, of course. Yes. The legend that is Stephen Graham, turning up in that as well. He's in the dystopia, wasn't he? Yeah, he was the dystopian guy. Yeah. He could turn up in any time period in that.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
That looked really cool. Next up was Eric, which was Benedict Cumberbatch in a series with him, which actually isn't going to come out until 2024.
But we didn't get him in the flesh.
We got him
doing a piece to camera on set.
And basically, it looks, from just his piece to camera, quite eccentric. Yeah. It's written by Abby Morgan, who did Suffragette and The Iron Lady, and it's basically like a disappearance. It's set in 1980s New York, and Benedict Cumberbatch loses his son. His son goes missing, and but amidst that is some sort of like you're losing your grip on reality, and there's a puppet show involved, and sort of dreaming up like a puppet-like figure.
It was like a colourful sort of Wonderland set with the yellow brick road. It was invoking a lot of different things, wasn't it?
I feel like every single episode is going to try different genres, so that looks crazy. But that's not till next year.
There were a couple of other things which I think we'll just skip over because there's sort of lots of different genres. But the next one I think you and I both were really into was Scoop.
Yes, this looks really cool. So Scoop is based on a book by Sam McAllister, who was instrumental in the team that secured the BBC Newsnight interview with Prince Andrew in 2019.
Infamous I Don't Sweat.
Yes.
I was at a Pizza Express.
The famous, one of the most famous car crash interviews of recent years. And obviously, they showed us a couple of clips.
This is a drama, not a documentary.
This is a drama. This is actually, it's almost like it's a 90-minute film, really, isn't it?
Yes,
it's a standalone piece of what you would call in the old days a TV movie. And you've got Gillian Anderson playing Emily Maitlis. You've got Rufus Sewell playing Prince Andrew.
And the likenesses
are good, very strong.
Really, really good.
And you've got Billy Piper playing Sam. And you've got Keely Hawes in it as well, and Romola Gary. And what the clip showed, and what the sort of premise is that we, as viewers, as an audience, are only familiar with seeing Emily Maitlis and Prince Andrew on camera.
The interview.
But if you zoom out a little bit, in that room, behind the lights and the cameras and all the camera operators, you've got the equerry, you've got the producer, probably 20 other people.
It reminds me when they did it in The Crown with the Bashir interview with Diana. Yeah. Like you really saw the other side of it.
And I think that's going to be a very witty, sharp story that's got a balance of this is an important thing that needed to happen, but also the sheer,
more light to the story as well.
The sheer comedic value in some of the things that he said.
From what we understand, Prince Andrew thought and his team thought the interview had gone very well.
Yeah, and Sam came onto stage and spoke. She's so charismatic, just really, really interesting.
And it was funny because she looks like one of those people that I could tell from when they put an image up who has her chosen outfit, and that's her outfit. Yep. And like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same thing every day because being a billionaire, you need to just kind of you can't be distracted with that. And she was wearing this all black, sort of wavy, iconic, sort of bleach blonde hair with a Chanel coat, all black, and you just look up at her speaking to Billy Piper wearing the exact same outfit, and you're like, you just are that person in silhouette. And I thought it was quite funny. And she's like a former barrister who's very speaks very well, very sure of herself. She's like, of course I got the interview. I mean, look at me. And it's just a really interesting character. I can't wait to see what's probably a heightened, dramatized version. Yeah, I think that would be really fun.
Totally.
And Billy Piper's just, I think, a real sort of career resurgence. Next up, At Home with the Furies. I don't know how much of a Tyson Fury fan you are.
Well, I'm not. I know you follow boxing a little bit more, right?
I would say I watch 4 or 5 fights a year. But I'm more excited to see Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury. Right. If you think Tyson is crazy, I cannot wait to see a fly on the wall documentary.
And the way that Netflix said it was this is At Home with the Osbournes, but now it's the whole Ozzy Osbourne, Sharon Osbourne thing.
I do look at it, and I think nothing will ever beat non-produced reality TV from the early noughties and late 90s. I don't know if you ever have gone back. Me and a producer friend of mine have gone back and watched like old reality TV, and it's just so much better than everything. It's got so many fingerprints on it. It's a PR. It's people trying to like manipulate opinion. You know, like the Harry and Meghan thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and it's entertaining. But old stuff, like people really didn't know they were being filmed.
Yeah.
People didn't know what being filmed meant.
Yeah, people would let their guard down
prolific.
So much more,
but yeah, it looked very produced, but I'll probably flick it on. Next up was a TV adaptation of One Day.
That's right, yes.
David Nichols' novel. We had a film.
Have you read it?
No, but I've seen the film.
So I've read it but not seen the film. I really liked the book. I enjoyed it, except for the ending.
Okay, yeah.
And the thing is, I know they're probably going to keep the ending, which is a shame. But obviously that was made into a film with Anne Hathaway, and now it's coming as a series, again, to air next year.
Yeah.
With
Leo Woodall.
Who from The White Lotus. Do you remember the Essex lad in White Lotus season 2? And the actress who played Shruti in This Is Going to Hurt.
Yes. I can't remember her name.
Amber Commod from This Is Going to Hurt. And we saw a little clip of them on Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, which is like the first chapter of the book. Yeah. And I'll be down. I'll watch it. I'm up for it. You know, expect lots of wigs in that as they age one day every year. Yeah. That's the premise. Remember, is that it's their friendship relationship told over the course of many years, but told on the same day every year.
I can't help but think that the success of Normal People prompted a research, like
totally agree. I did say I have a friend who works in publishing, and I said Normal People is the one day of this generation, isn't it? And he said, yeah, totally.
Next up, we had a look back at The Crown. So The Crown, they had said that The Crown season 6 had just finished filming the last Friday. Yeah, and they didn't really have anything new to show us because of that.
Well, the only thing I got out of it that I thought was new was that you and I have spoken a little bit about where we think The Crown is going to finish, and the actress who plays Princess Anne in the most recent series, Claudia Harrison, I want to say.
I think so.
She was speaking about, because they've just finished shooting, was speaking about how they were shooting a wedding, and I was like, well, what other weddings were between 1996? Yeah, and so I assume actually the story is going to conclude in 2011 with Will and Kate, which would make, I guess, sense because they also showed like spotted photos of Will and Kate, the actors playing Will and Kate.
Yes, they did.
Filming university.
It's sort of like a hype cycle about how people were saying that, oh my God, St Andrews, they're filming at my uni, and there was just hype around the fact that it was being shot. But that's interesting because I thought the natural conclusion point was 2002, and they're going to do the fallout of Diana and everything. Sirens on our end, very loud sirens on our end. I apologise.
Unless they do Charles and Camilla's wedding, but I don't think that was as big an affair. Obviously, they said they were filming it in York Minster, which is a fucking huge cathedral. Abbey Cathedral. Oh shit,
one of them. But yeah, like Will and Kate. Big moment for royalty. It was a real like peak.
It's the next generation.
Absolutely.
The heir.
We're skipping over a couple of things in the interest of time, but one of the things you and I were most excited about, and I think you and I had the best reaction to, was Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget.
Dawn of the Nugget.
If they put a 2 on it,
no,
if they just cut
Chicken Run, Dawn of the
Nugget. I mean, the title alone sort of implies what's at stake.
Here's the thing. So Chicken Run was a huge thing when I was younger. I remember watching that so many times at school, at home, at sleepovers. I knew that film. Right, Christmas, it was always like the thing to
And I remember being aware of the Wallace and Gromit that video. I used to have like
aware
VHS.
Of it. That's why.
Of course. But I remember watching the VHS tapes and like just thinking they were brilliant, and we all just loved quoting them at school.
When I was a kid, anything Aardman touched was gold.
The Curse of the Were-Rabbit film I thought was brilliant, and we were all just loving it. I was like 10 at the time, and just
so good.
Right up my street.
And then, so they showed us a little piece of camera from the director of Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. And of course, because it's stop motion with these plasticine models, they started this like 8 years ago. Now, what a feat to have that in your mind for 8 years.
If anyone doesn't know, these are films that are modelled out of plasticine painstakingly in as many frames a second as video, which is 24. So imagine like how long it takes to adjust another frame and how long it would take you to make a second of footage. It's beyond comprehension, the discipline and the attention to detail required to make a scene.
And what was great is after this piece of camera from the director, they then showed us a clip, and it was like being in... it was like being straight back there. All the characters are there again. Bunty,
the style of comedy had not changed.
The Aardman touch.
The Aardman touch. It had not been stained or added to by time or by pop culture or by like. Not that I felt like it was had anything like big to say.
Yeah.
It just felt exactly the same.
Yes.
And I said this at the time. There's something about this vacant stare that the characters have by product of them being plasticine, but actually because they know that that's how they work, they write the comedic timing for it perfectly. And it was so funny.
That's the thing. We saw that clip came in quite late in the presentation. Obviously, we've been in there for 2 hours, but it like hit me right in the gut. And you and I were laughing more than most people. I think we were really enjoying that. All the beats are so good, and I was like, I can't wait to see this. And I actually can't. I really want to rewatch. I haven't seen Chicken Run in like since I was a child.
Yeah, probably 15 years plus since I've seen that.
And Hip, Hop, Fly, Don't Care If I Die. Brilliant. So we're really looking forward to that, and that's coming out later this year. What else was there?
Last two things, we saw a small tease for the new season of Top Boy. I never saw Top Boy, but I'd heard really good things. I'm tempted ahead of this to go and watch season 1 of Top Boy.
So again, started on Channel 4.
Yeah.
And then in like 2011, 2013, then kind of got cancelled, finished. And then I believe Drake was a fan of it.
Yeah.
And through Netflix rebooted it, and it's had 2 and now this third and final.
Oh, it's third series, is it?
This is its third and final season, I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it either. I've heard great things. My parents absolutely swear by it. They think it's one of the best things they've seen. So I will try before that third season airs to check that out.
And then lastly, and I'm sort of going to go back to the beginning to talk about the end, the opening of the event was a voiceover from Charlie Brooker.
Yes.
And he was like, hello and welcome. I hope you're all sitting because you're about to... I'm just drifting into another impression. But he's got his very like typical sort of dry voice. And he was like, I hope you enjoy this presentation of See What's Next, which sort of planted the seed that we were going to see Black Mirror. And then at the end, we have a piece to camera with Charlie Brooker like behind some stage flats with lots of wires coiled in a director's chair, and he tells us for a couple of minutes about the new series of Black Mirror.
Yeah,
he talks about the difference in approach and how it's always been about technology and the future, and he's made some comments about how actually wanting to explore the past, to retrospectively look at the future.
Because it's been a while since we've had I think probably about 4 or 5 years since we've had a Black Mirror season. It has, and I think he was saying he kind of wanted to do like a soft reboot of it. Yeah. And yes, it's covered technology and very futuristic, but he wanted to expand that kind of conversation. And a lot of these episodes that we're going to see are set in the past. There was definitely some stuff in the 50s there, some stuff in the 80s. With the odd futuristic one sprinkled in.
And we saw a little teaser of snippets from
As ever, though, with all Black Mirror series, each one is its own film. Yeah. And the production value looked great. And a great raft of talent in there. You had like Josh Hartnett, Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. Yes, Aaron Paul. Really good selection of
And even though everyone has their favourite episodes of Black Mirror, and I think you could... It's
again, which also started on Channel 4.
Yes. And I think it's very easy to go, like, that one's my favourite, that one's way better, or this one's a little bit off. I would still say, to come up with that many original ideas in a series and explore them as well as you do, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, totally.
And it's so easy to, you compare a million ideas to be like, well, that one wasn't as good. I'm like, come on, like these are all shows that could be their own series if they wanted to be. I just think that's very impressive.
Also, the Black Mirror, you know what Charlie Brooker is, we've spoken about this before, where I believe that the Black Mirror, it's called Black Mirror because the black of your screen. Yes, that's it. Okay, great. Yeah. Also, sorry, before I forget, when we mentioned Robbie Williams earlier, did you hear how Donald Glover mentioned that he studied Robbie Williams when choreographing the This Is America video?
No.
He said that he wanted to look at Robbie Williams. He was quite vague about it, but the fact that he knows who Robbie Williams is and even engaged with him was just so mind-blowing because they're just
worlds colliding.
I know. He was like, one person we looked at a lot was Robbie Williams, and people that often surprises people. I think he said, I didn't want to do what he did too much. I think he was referring to the Rock DJ video where Robbie's, in his bare skin and and I think I don't know, just the mention of it was,
which I'd say isn't exclusive to Robbie. Like a lot of rock stars with tattoos will be wearing like a tight pair of jeans, like Iggy Pop.
Oh yeah.
Even what's his name from Maroon 5 did it?
Adam Levine.
Adam Levine. Not Adam Devine from Workaholics.
Oh right.
I will get them mixed up in my head.
Well, they're probably one of them both because maybe they're both Canadian. I don't know.
Could be.
Anyway, and that was the selection.
That was
wasn't
it. Just thought some of our highlights from the show.
Yeah.
Some interesting impressions. I thought coming out of it, because there's loads of other stuff we didn't mention, but Netflix, of all the streaming services, it does the widest breadth of content.
Yeah, that did seem,
and it seems to tackle content that is for the most amount of audiences, I would say.
That's right. Well, if you were to compare it with something like Apple TV making great shows,
yeah.
Apple TV great, but you're right. There's a target. You said like Apple TV seems to be positioning itself more like an HBO balancing point. You see,
if it's going for that.
Whereas Netflix seems to have a different strategy, which is fine. They can't all have the same strategy.
Yeah.
You need to change up a bit. So,
or you'll see a trailer for something and you'll be like, "That's for my mum," and that's so okay.
Yeah,
and it's not meant to be.
I mean, there was stuff we saw that we were like, not for us.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
So just really normal.
You're never going to tick it off, but it's a broad church.
There we go.
So that was Netflix's slate. It was very interesting, and we'll try and keep you posted if we see any of those projects coming down the line.
If any of those interest you, or there's something we missed that you are interested in more, we'd love to hear your thoughts to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com.
I would quite like to just do a film review. We've got to do a review. I'd like to do a review of the film Nobody. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nobody? That film came out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing reviewing it now?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why. That film came out still when things were pretty COVID-y, number one. So a lot of people didn't see it, myself included. Passed me by.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's just been added very recently to Netflix and is currently the number one watched film on Netflix. And when I went to that Bob Odenkirk event the other day, when he said, I was in the film Nobody, huge reaction. Yeah. And I was like, okay, people are watching this film. More people are probably watching it now than they probably did when it came out 2 years ago.
I've heard really good things. I'd seen little clips of it starting.
Well, exactly.
I really need to check this
out. So it's like, it's clearly, it's become current again. So I thought, well, we both mentioned it the other day. We wanted to see it.
We're a current podcast.
We can go check it out. So this is going to be a review of Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk from 2021. What is Nobody? Well, Nobody is a story of Hutch Mansell, who is a average Joe, living in suburbia, got a very dull, mundane, repetitive life. He forgets to put the trash out. He goes to work. He gets dropped off. You know, his wife is clearly very successful and wealthy. He's a little bit more emasculated. Works this very boring, like, industrial office. He goes for a run in the morning. That's the highlight. There's, you know, absolute lack of passion between him and his wife, and that's his life. And then one day, his home is broken into by these thugs, and he tries to confront them, but stops, and they steal his watch, they steal some property, they hit his son, and they leave. And there's this kind of hanging feeling in the air, like his son almost had one of the burglars, but because Bob Odenkirk didn't do anything, the guy got away. And there's this kind of hanging feeling in the air afterwards of people quietly judging him, being like, why didn't you do anything there? This whole like emasculation idea, like, why didn't you defend it? And he's clearly having this thought process inside as well. So this event triggers something inside of Hutch, and he decides to think, no, I'm sick of being put down by life. I'm going to take matters into my own hands, and I'm going to find the thugs, and I'm going to track them down and get my daughter's kitty cat bracelet back. That's the initial premise in the first 20 minutes.
Taken with less stakes.
Yes. It's written by Derek Kolstad, who's written all the John Wick movies. And it's very much in that genre. You've got, you know, if you're going to watch Nobody, you're watching it for the super well-executed, slick action scenes, okay? They are very good. They're very well choreographed. Sometimes a little too quick. Sometimes I was like, that was so fast, I actually don't know how someone shot someone in which order. But, you know, undeniably slick. Bob Odenkirk trained for 2 years to be able to do that. I mean, he's 60 now, so he would have been 57, I think, at the time of production. Wow. And there was he fully commits to it. There was never a moment where I thought, I didn't believe that character could do the things that he was doing. You know, there was never a sense that, like, he would just turn a little bit and then an actor would throw themselves across the room. It was not like an actor beyond their prime still punching around. I thought, oh, this is someone who's fighting. So that's great. There's, you know, a really great choreographed sort of like cheek to jowl fight on a bus, which is very scrappy. Probably the standout scene in the film, and that's cool. What Nobody nobody has all those scenes in there of really slick action set pieces. What it has outside of that is not much else. You have a very underwritten, thin characterization and plot stringing these events together. It was quite funny actually seeing Bob Odenkirk like in the scenes where he's talking with his family. I was like, oh, I've actually only seen Bob Odenkirk be in roles that are really, really well written. Like, I was like, I've only seen him being great roles, whether it's Little Women or Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. And when he's in this, I was like, oh, he's got nothing to do.
Sort of action first dialogue later.
Totally. The film's not really interested in that, but there are a couple of scenes where they like have dramatic conversations between him and his wife, and I'm like, I got nothing, guys. I've got the thinnest of threads here just to stitch these sequences together. But okay, it's fine. We're not here for that. But it just means that you're depending then entirely on getting your enjoyment from the film, from the action scenes. I think for me, one thing that slightly disappointed me with Nobody, as good as those other scenes are, the creeping feeling I had when I was watching it is that I think the film sadly misunderstands what the appeal of this film is, the interestingness of its premise. For me, the idea that Bob Odenkirk, comic actor, recent dramatic actor, but like comic actor, former SNL writer, is now an action hero, that's an interesting transformation. When I just told you that he trained for 2 years to be this guy, you were like, oh, that's very interesting. That is interesting. It's called Nobody. The idea of a nobody being a kick-ass action hero, it's fun. The problem is, though, and this isn't a spoiler because it's kind of shown in the trailer, is that very quickly the film says it's not Bob Odenkirk, a nobody, a mild-mannered guy, deciding to become a John Wick-like character, to train and be a kick-ass fighter. It's Bob Odenkirk, a mild-mannered average guy who was previously a John Wick character and is retired. So it's actually quite a fine point, but it actually changes your whole reception of the film.
Right.
So it's quickly revealed that Bob Odenkirk used to be a high-class special agent mercenary.
It's Taken.
Exactly, right?
It's Taken.
But and it's like, oh, you've kind of awoken the beast now, and he's been like, he's like overcorrect.
John Wick and Taken.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, but that's not interesting. What's interesting is seeing someone who has nothing, who is a nobody.
He's a somebody.
Yeah, well, exactly. Seeing someone who already has superpowers, just remember that they have superpowers. I mean, John Wick basically has the premise, right? The same thing.
Yeah.
John Wick is retired,
assassin,
and he's brought back into the fray. That's fine, because that film doesn't tell me that person is a nobody. That film knows that John Wick is Keanu Reeves.
There's a dog and a wife.
But nobody is like, this is Bob Odenkirk. I'm like, yeah, he's not going to kick anybody's butt. And he's like,
you believe this guy's just a Joe Schmo.
Joe Schmo. And he's like, yeah, he is Joe Schmo. Although he actually used to be a kick-ass, mercenary.
Is that a reveal like towards the end? Or
no,
fairly,
it's I'd say it's in the first. It's in the first act. That's a first act reveal.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
And it's just like
to call your film that.
But then, and because then the premise is not, oh, look at this guy training himself to be a fighter. It's look at this guy just remembering all the stuff that he could do before. It's just not that interesting.
Yeah.
So it's completely cut that layer off. And so the story of Bob Odenkirk getting ready for this role, that is then more interesting outside of the film than what the film does itself.
Is there another thing where someone's old and they're trying to remember their superpowers? It sounds
like actual superpowers. I mean, like
I know the sort of retired thing is done. No, I might be thinking of a game.
Okay,
ignore me.
So I think that's the disappointing thing. In another universe or in another world, the first act of this film would have been the entire film. Or the first act of this film is almost a short film, which is that guy, gets house broken into, decides to take things upon himself, and it ends with him having this brawl on the bus. Now, in another world, that would have been the end of this 90-minute movie. A very plain but scrappy fight on a bus that is, he gives a good fight. But
he gets hit too, doesn't
he? Yeah, he gets hit too. That is the culmination of that moment. Yeah. But the problem is the film then goes on and it brings in neon-clad Russian gangsters with huge machine guns in nightclubs saying, I must protect the Obrak. What's the Obrak? Well, it's the way the Russians get all the money. And you're like, oh, we're doing that film now. Yeah. So it just slips straight into generic territory and loses anything about its premise. He's not a nobody. Yeah. He's not a nobody. He's John fucking Wick, isn't he?
Just hearing you describe that's the slightly generic scene. You know in Avengers Endgame when they did that like 2-minute sequence with Hawkeye as Ronin, and he's in like some like neon scorched alleyway in Japan.
Yeah.
And in Japan. And it's almost just like I know that's an entire wing of the comics of who Hawkeye becomes, and it's like a nod to that whole side of it. But when you watch that scene back, it's actually a very generic thing that we've seen a million times before of a rogue agent who's got nothing left to live for, but is willing to fight for the right cause. I'm like, that's actually not cool. It's very generic. And just this idea of dialogue actually being the be-all end-all for a lot of films, because even if the action is very good, and you'll notice like this week I am without film.
Yes.
And one of the reasons is that I was going to watch the Apple, and I'm not going to review it because it's not fair because I didn't finish it. I was going to review the Ghosted film on Apple TV Plus, which is an action romance comedy film starring Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, two actors who I like very much and I think are great. The problem is within 10 minutes of that film starting, the dialogue was so bad that actually I realized even bad films, some of them have good dialogue. Do you know what I mean? Like you can watch a film that you know is really bad, but like the chemistry and the dynamic and the dialogue keeps you through. This just, I already knew the premise wasn't going to, the premise had kind of been done before. And like Ghosted was a kind of weird, like postmodern idea that I was never really that interested in. And then when I just started listening to it, I was like, I can't do this for 2 hours. It's now 56 minutes. I was like, and it just didn't happen for me. Not a review, but interesting revelation within myself about obviously how important dialogue is.
But anyway, so look, but Ghosted is still, sorry, not Ghosted, Nobody is still serviceable enough. I do think over time, this film will dissolve and not be a film, but it will survive as a series of clips on YouTube.
Yeah,
the bus clips. Scene,
that's how
a scene
I know
in the middle, a scene in the bit. Yeah, that's really all that this film has to hang on.
Are we getting sequels?
Yeah, there's a Nobody 2 coming, But I'm like, again, I'm not interested because I'm just like, it's just generic guy who can do anything.
No, he's definitely somebody.
I wanted it to be more Death Wish, which is the original Death Wish, which is, again, guy gets aggrieved, decides to take the law into his own hands. Yeah. That is interesting. That is what you see Bob Odenkirk, seeing Saul Goodman.
It's not impressive anymore.
See Saul Goodman throw a guy through a plate glass window. It's only interesting if you know it's Saul Goodman doing it. If it turns out that Saul Goodman used to be a fucking assassin and he's been doing it for years, then it's not interesting anymore.
Yeah, totally fair. Guys, if you've seen Nobody or you're just currently watching it, like I assume some of you must be, if it's number one on Netflix, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Send them into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Let's go through some of the emails that we had this week. If you wanted to send an email to the show, like so many of you do, you can do by emailing hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. George, what is our first email?
We've got an email from James who says, "Hey guys, new listener to the pod, love your take on things and have instantly been compiling a list of movies to watch in my notes.
Nice.
Ticked off Barbarian this week while staying in an Airbnb with my wife. Mistake!
Oh my God.
Whoa, that's a huge...
That is immersive cinema.
Immersive experience. That must have been deeply uncomfortable.
It's like doing Cabin in the Woods in a
Cabin in the Woods. Did, however, love the film. Or you go camping and it's like, let's watch Blair Witch. I like a good/bad film every so often. A guilty pleasure of sorts. My wife hates the fact that I love 90s action films, for example. I recently rewatched 2008's Never Back Down.
Yes.
Mainly because...
Never Back Down.
I don't remember. What is that one?
It's all about... Is
that Sean William Scott? No.
No, it's about these kids that have like an MMA street fighting ring in their high school. This kid is like troubled and he moves to this new school. And
it's Channing Tatum,
no, it's got, I don't know the guy who's in Dharma plays the friend.
Oh, right.
No. Maybe. I think I've got it all wrong.
Oh, no, nobody I recognise.
No, sorry, I'll take that all back. So he joins this new school and he realises there's this like hierarchy based on who fights. Wow. And this really popular kid who's like the alpha dog who has the girlfriend that he likes, like runs out of his parents' mansion, this like mixed martial arts fighting. Brilliant. And there's just this culture of fights and you've got to prove yourself. And it's one of those films where the message of the film is you're not supposed to fight. It's not the way to solve your problems. Until it is the way to solve your problems, and he has to solve his problems with a big fight. It's got Jimon Hanzu in it.
Right, who I love.
He's great. And
Jimon, I say Demon. Demon?
Is it a DJ sound?
Yeah, but it's a you say
Jimon.
Say Jimon, I say Demon.
Isn't DJ like
Djibouti? I've never met him, so I don't know.
I could be wrong. It is
interesting.
It is
not.
It is. Look, I actually think it's fairly entertaining.
It is Never Back Down.
It's Never Back Down. There's a really great hit from Kanye Stronger from 2008. That was like the best song you could play.
Wow.
And he fights the guy at the end and he earns his respect and he wins the girl.
Brilliant.
Who's played by, he's the one who's married
Amber
to
Heard.
Amber Heard.
Well, formerly married to Johnny Depp.
Yeah, formerly married to
Catch up.
Famously formerly married.
Anyway,
I can't recommend
sorry,
it,
James
but-
goes on and says, watch Never Back Down, mainly because I was logged into someone else's Netflix account in the Airbnb we rented and didn't have my watch list handy, so I went for the first thing I saw. That's brave.
Nice.
I was pretty surprised to find the story had a bit of heart, a killer soundtrack, energetic fun, and fun cameos from a young Evan Peters and Demon
Evan
Hanzu.
Peters, yes.
Firstly, if you've seen it and remember, can you agree? Well, we've just said that.
Yeah.
Secondly, this got me thinking about guilty pleasure films and what yours are. Which films are you embarrassed to say you like or even love?
Ooh.
I mean, we've had this question before, but it's like the whole notion of guilty pleasure.
I said the Hobbit trilogy. It's like I sort of I can tolerate them, and the first Hobbit film I like. A lot of people are like, oh, they're so bad. No, the first Hobbit film's actually really good.
I really don't know because I kind of feel I have no shame about watching any films, really.
I can usually defend it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can acknowledge films for being flawed, but I still really like them. I've said many.
Nah. Okay. That was from James in Brixton. Thanks so much.
You know what it is? Sorry. Just the reason why Never Back Down kind of works is that the concept is so crazy and compelling that it's like these people are
ridiculous,
fighting.
James.
That you're like, I have to see where this goes. Speaking of where we're going next to Julia, who says, hi, James and George. Julia from Sweden here.
Oh,
I just
hello.
listened to last week's episode where someone wrote in about a book series that should be turned into films. And this was now, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago when she says, I totally agree that the Spooks books would make
somebody
a
else
great
who read them.
film series.
Thank you.
Especially as the lore deepens a few books in, brackets when they go to Greece, etc.
They do go to Greece, don't they?
Oh, yeah, Greece.
I do remember that.
Yeah, the
and there's
Grease
one
bit.
where he goes off and he has to train with another spook as well.
I believe you. I do, however, have another fantasy series to suggest, the Atlas Trilogy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It sounds familiar, but I don't know. It's a modern setting with 6 POVs, complex relationships, a secret society, and a really cool magic system that incorporates science in a clever way. Only 2 out of 3 books have been released as of 2022. Though I adore the books, I think they might translate better in the form of a mini-series. Action surrounding the magic, such as fights on telepathic planes and dream walking, are explained in detail, so you can really visualize the way it would be shown on TV, but it's a little wordy to read. I also think a series would be a good medium to explore the 6 main characters individually, with each one being the main focus of their own episode, as it can become a little messy to jump back and forth between their heads. Interesting. Sorry if this became more book than film and TV related. Keep up the good work. I'm always excited for Wednesdays now, Julia.
Yeah.
P.S. I also want to thank you for all your film recommendations. I have a list of films to watch on my phone, and it's almost doubled since I started listening.
Yay.
Julia, thank you so much. You know, I had...
Yeah.
Sorry. You know, when someone from previous weeks asked what thing would you like to be like actually like remade and rebooted, I had to think about obviously like AI and everything, and I think we should revisit iRobot, the Isaac Asimov.
Yeah. I liked
novel.
iRobot.
I like
That's
iRobot.
a good series waiting to happen. You mean like
Do you know what I mean?
A good
Like
10-part.
And AI. I know this idea of sort of like robot rebellion taking over is a little bit dated, but the idea of like what to do with AI and like these rules we build into artificial
Didn't they kind of do that with
minds.
Westworld though?
Yes, that's true. But I think like the source text of Isaac Asimov is probably stronger than Westworld making it up as they go
But I think
along.
it's the need to Okay.
That's just I wanted to
Cool.
add that.
Thank
Julia,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your show. Okay, this next email is from Bobby, who says, sorry if you've been asked this question before. Oh, sorry, before I do Bobby's email. If anyone, do let us know if you have heard of us talk about a film, you've added it to your watch list, you've then watched it, and you've had a strong reaction to it.
Oh, yeah.
Let us know.
That's what the emails are for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This email's from Bobby. Sorry if you've been asked this question before, but I thought it would be quite fun to hear you discuss it. If a film was going to be made about your friendship, our friendship, yours and ours, and the formation of the podcast, who would you want to direct or write it? Who would you want it to have a cinematographer, and who would play you two? Thanks for the great stuff recently. I've been a fan of quite a few of the clips on TikTok over the last year, but have made watching the full episodes a really enjoyable part of my weekly routine recently. Thank you. Cheers, Bobby. Peter Jackson.
This could be a whole...
and it's going to be the forging of the podcast.
Well, I'm thinking if it goes really badly, Aaron Sorkin. Lawyer up, asshole.
Yeah.
I'll snap this microphone in half.
I think Noah Baumbach.
Oh, yeah.
Because
big fight scene.
lots of big fight scene.
Yeah, like arguments.
Oh, I was going to say, just like he's not an action director. I would say full of dialogue and wit, and it can be lighthearted or serious.
We talk very quickly over each other.
I could see that. Yeah, and then cinematographer. I think we're going. Let's think about this.
Who's the one who writes Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Gilmore Girls?
Oh, hang on. Palladino. Amy Sherman Palladino.
Yeah, her. She writes people having multiple conversations in the same scene, and you're sort of like clinging on for dear life.
Or Safdie Brothers.
Yes. again, it depends how this goes.
Yeah, how this goes. Who would play you too? Josh O'Connor and the guy we just said from White Lotus who played the Essex lad. There you go.
Leo Woodall.
Yeah, why not?
You could do me. I always liked Ashton Kutcher for me.
Ashton Kutcher.
This is aspiration.
I think Ashton Kutcher. Oh, I didn't realise we had the budget, James, for that. Okay, for me,
Safdie Brothers movie written by Aaron Sorkin.
Who looks like me?
Who looks like you?
Who looks like me? Glasses off as well. Glasses on.
Oh, Peter Capaldi. You look like Peter Capaldi. I've always thought that. Not like directly, but like you have certain...
is that a joke?
No, I think it.
Are you taking the piss?
Not like...
I look like Peter Capaldi.
Not
craggly,
there are
emaciated.
Not an old, not in age.
He's always looked old.
He's one of those faces that's always been old.
Peter Capaldi. I am Appaldi at that.
Well, right in and confirm.
Oh, like an Ashton Kutcher here.
I get Peter Serafinowicz all the time.
Oh, that's more like
Peter Serafinowicz.
Yeah.
And then,
you can have like a Peter Serafinowicz.
And then I get Nicholas Hoult sometimes.
You're dreaming.
Yeah.
You're dreaming. There you go, Bobby. There's your...
Bobby, thank you very much. This one is from Josh. This one is from Josh. He says, hey, I'm a new fan. Welcome, Josh. And I was wondering if either of you have seen A Good Person, brackets 2023.
No.
It's got Morgan Freeman and Florence Pugh. Personally, my favourite performance from her. What are your opinions on the movie? Kind regards, Josh. Josh, neither of us have seen it.
Yet.
We
haven't seen it yet, but we might do.
Might do.
Thank you.
That was a nice short one. Should we do one more? Because...
Yeah. This next email is from Thomas, who says, hi, guys. Hope you're both doing well. Just wanted to write in with a random thought or discussion point that, like with most of my emails, I want to bring up in the moment, but realize I'm either on my own or I have no one like-minded to talk about it. Enter PULP KITCHEN.
Yes, that's why we're here.
After hearing the Chariots of Fire music, and he says, pause for acapella rendition.
Oh, right. I wasn't even reading along.
You can't not do it. Which I've never seen. It got me thinking about if there are any other films with a scene, song, or something that holds a place in pop culture, but the film or media itself hasn't necessarily been seen by a large enough amount of people. So something that's transcended its origins.
Psycho,
basically.
Screeching.
Perfect. So that's a really good example. The power of Christ compels you. I think just people shouting that, not realizing.
I would say
with the Chariots of Fire example, everyone knows the song and the slow motion running, but might have no idea where it's from. Any other examples you can think of? I do remember that because I remember at the beginning of Bruce Almighty they used that, and I remember like my mum finding it funny, but I was like, why?
Yeah.
I know, like, it's Chariots of Fire, and I was like, oh, I knew Chariots of Fire as a joke before I saw the film.
I would also say not Beethoven's Fifth, but a fifth of Beethoven from Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah. The Psycho thing is quite.
You'll see that in animations and all sorts of things. Must be some Star Warsy ones.
Oh, Star Wars probably like.
I just like the concept of like turning to the dark side is a thing that's always permeated through.
I think Chariots of Fire is a big one,
yeah.
and the Psycho.
The Wilhelm
Bunny
Scream.
Boiler. People call. I mean, it's quite an outdated term now to use that, but people when they're talking. Certain people will use this phrase when talking derogatorily is that a word? About women. Would say, oh, that person, she's crazy, she's a bunny boiler, referring to Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
The Wilhelm Scream.
Don't agree with that. Just saying.
Some people have
said that.
At the Wilhelm Scream.
The Wilhelm Scream, yes. I mean,
you know it even if you don't know it,
Yeah,
and then you can blow someone's mind when you play it for them, and they're like, wait, I do know that sound.
Yeah. Ark of the Covenant, maybe.
Yeah, keep your eyes... Yeah.
No, but like, oh, that's kind of...
Yeah, it's like... Do people reference it, though? Must be an Indiana. It must be an Indiana Jones one.
Something that like someone doesn't even know it's from a film. A film like your
being
average
chased
show.
being chased off
by a
like
giant.
a big
Every time I'm chased by a giant boulder, I'm always thinking
but like
this
it's
is
referenced and like it's in Crash Bandicoot and Uncharted. It's like an homage
and forgetting your hat under the door and getting it last minute.
Yeah.
We'll keep thinking
Sticking
about
your hand
that
in the
one.
buggy thing
That's
into the
definitely
lever.
gonna.
Spikes going through the ceiling and the floor
Yeah, maybe.
in Temple of Doom. Love that scene.
I'm sure there's some from like actual, or like Frankly My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn. A lot of quotes probably people know.
The music from Jurassic Park when something big and epic moves.
Yeah.
I feel
like most people would have known Jurassic Park though. Good
Yeah.
question, Thomas. I think that's an answer that is going to come back to us through the many weeks to come.
And that is all the emails we will do for this week. Guys, thank you as always for the questions. We absolutely love to read them. If you wanted to send us your question, you can do by emailing hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. It is that time of the episode again when we wind down with a game, a bit of trivia.
Like a nice bit of whiskey at the end of the evening.
I say wind down, they can be quite
They're
intense,
very stressful and testful.
I often leave the episode exhausted, and I think it's partly because of
Me.
the game. Just you in general coming into my plan, cooking. But we're going to play 2 different games. The first one is going to be a miscellaneous hot fire. You just got to get it, and you got to get it in a certain amount of time.
You mean
yeah,
quick fire?
It's
We're
called
tired.
Hot fire. I had 4 hours sleep, and then I'm going to do a cast countdown.
All right.
But the first one is going to be name me thing and thing, and you got to do the thing within the timed thing. George, are you ready?
I'm ready.
As always, you can play along at home. Let me get my timer. Hold on. Okay. George, are you ready? Thank you for waiting, everyone. Can you name 10 planets / moons in the Star Wars universe? You have 45 seconds.
Christ.
Your time starts now.
Coruscant,
Yeah.
Tatooine, Jakku,
Yeah.
Dagobah,
Yeah.
Hoth,
Yeah.
Cloud City. I mean, it's a place.
There's a name for it.
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know it. Exegol.
Yeah. Nice. New one. 20 seconds.
Naboo.
Yeah. 4 more.
Mustafa.
Yes.
Endor.
Yes. That's why I said moon.
Alderaan.
Yes. 1 more. You did very well. You did very, very well. You said Naboo, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, you could have had Yavin.
What the fuck's that?
You could have done Dathomir. What's the one? The one from Rogue One. Drax or something. You did very well. You got 9 though.
The one that the thing blows up.
Yeah,
at the end.
like where I can't remember the name of it now. But you got most.
I got most of the ones that they kind of. Like,
Alderaan's a good one that people forget.
the ones that people would normally, the regular mainstream fans.
You said Jakku? Yeah, you did.
I did say Jakku. Yeah. I can't.
It's a good one. There's quite a lot.
What's the? Did they say what planet Luke's on in like Last Jedi?
Oh yeah, they do. Oh, it's Bespin, by the way. Cloud City of Bespin.
What's the place in Mandalorian that isn't Tatooine but looks like Tatooine? The one where Carl Weathers is the sheriff or whatever.
Navarro. Navarro.
Yeah. Oh well. Thank you.
You did well. 9 out of 10. Lovely. Now we're gonna unwind with a little more relaxing.
Good. That made me scream.
Yeah, it's good. I'll make a good clip. Let's do it. Ready? I can't wait for all the Star Wars nerds to come out with. You didn't in the cartoon of the video game of the comic.
Dude
of the
gets
video
Coruscant,
game,
but he doesn't get this one.
in my Game Boy Advance thing from 30. Get fucked.
Yeah. Okay.
Next up, we're going to do a casters countdown. If you are new to the podcast, I'm going to read the cast members of a film, and George has to guess what film I'm talking about before I get to the end of that cast list. I'm excited. George, are you ready?
I'm ready, James.
You have to guess the film based on its cast. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Eric Andre. Florence Kazuma.
Right.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Okay.
John Oliver. John Carney. Shahadi Wright Joseph. Alfred Woodard.
Okay.
Billy Eichner. Seth Rogen. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Great, but
Beyonce.
Lion King.
Yes.
The new Lion King. The new one. The 2019.
live action, not live action one. Next up, you could have Donald Glover and then James Earl Jones, who they got back.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
It's the
I
non-live
forgot.
action,
I hadn't
live
seen
action.
it, but the CGI one.
That's not CGI.
Well, it
It's
is
so
CGI,
real.
but
I
it's
know,
I
it's
see what you
like
mean, yeah.
it's like the most photoreal.
Yes.
And I think they could do that because they're not doing human faces.
That is confusing because that is a good stacked cast. I mean, like you were saying, like Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
I was like, is this?
I was trying to throw you off, like
with
with Keegan, Mike, and Keel being a comedy.
I thought when you said John Oliver and that, I thought like, is it Toy Story 4? But
yeah.
very good.
You know what I mean? That's the most photoreal film in CG I've seen, but it's easier to do that because it's animal faces.
Yes,
Whereas I think
so
if
you don't have
try
to express.
We always have to sort of drift apart from reality. Like you'll notice Pixar now always does slight caricature of human faces because they have the fidelity to render.
Otherwise, you're Uncanny Valley.
And it just starts to look really strange.
Uncanny
A lot
Valley.
of video games sort of struggle with that, and they have to sort of lean into
Uncanny Valley.
Yes, that. Yeah, I know the term. George.
You
we have an audience that like to hear things.
You did. I know,
It's about the journey.
I wanted to look of recognition, James. You didn't even nod.
I know.
Just putting your hand up and going, yeah.
Thank you very
Listen
much
to
for
me.
listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. We really appreciate you staying for this long and tolerating the games.
Thanks so much
We really
for listening
appreciate
to the
you being
bits that
here.
James remembered to record.
It was 4 minutes we lost. 4 minutes. I'm exhausted. That's what happened. Don't forget, we post new episodes of the show every single Wednesday.
Thank you as ever for listening. We really appreciate it. And please show your support for us by following us on Instagram and TikTok. And if you see our clips, give them a like, give them a share, give them a comment. Really appreciate it. And don't forget to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube account and follow us and subscribe on Spotify and all podcast platforms.
Whenever we go to a fun, cool event where we get invited to a premiere or a fun thing to show off something, we always do some Instagram stuff. So we'll have a highlight on our Instagram. And if you're not following us, what are you doing? Go and follow. We always will try and post some fun shenanigans. Hopefully we've got some cool stuff coming up in the future, which will be worth following and covering on the show. So exciting times.
Stay tuned, stay well, and see you next week.
Bye, guys.